to Breaking Down the Madness, a look at the Providence College men's basketball team. I'm Brad McGair, joined by Daniel James, a.k.a. the Warrior Friar. And Dan, we have a huge game to talk about from this past Tuesday night. 94-86, double overtime victory over Creighton. The Friars get it done. An impressive rebound from losing to at St. John's a few days prior at Madison Square Garden. Dan, what were your impressions as you watched this game, and just how impressive was it to see the Friars bounce back in the fashion that they did?
I think it was a really impressive win. The thing that comes to mind with this game is nerves. It started where the Friars went down early and they found ways to come back. Creighton found ways to respond. So then you're in a bit of a slugfest, and you can either do one of two things. You can find ways to win, or you can find ways to lose. Providence has been known to find ways to win in these games, and that's exactly what they did. They didn't back down. They made good adjustments at halftime. They found who was scoring for them and who wasn't, and started distributing the ball on offense in ways that were creating opportunities for those scorers to get it done. Likewise, on defense, they were finding ways to disrupt the offensive flow for Creighton, to force turnovers, to force opportunities, to get fast break scores, to on their own offense, find second chance scoring, which was a big reason why they came out on top, especially in the second overtime when Creighton was just too tired to keep up and the Friars looked like they were ready to go for another 50.
You know, speaking of 50, that's what the amount of minutes that Bryce Hopkins logged against the Blue Jays. We haven't seen that total since the days of Bryce Cotton, who did it twice back in the 2013-14 season. You know, one thing that I've seen about Bryce this season is that he's been able to embrace this workload. There were questions about it maybe a year ago. He was at the University of Kentucky playing limited minutes as a freshman. The year before, he was a senior at Fenwick High School in Chicago, you know, during the COVID circumstances. And obviously that wasn't easy. But for him to log 50 minutes the other night speaks to an Ironman quality like what we referenced, you know, we haven't seen since the days of Bryce Cotton.
Agreed. That's something that I think Cooley looks for in a lot of his guys. You don't come to Providence College to get your 20, 30 minutes in, look good. You come in to put in work, know that you're going to be going up hard and going up strong every time you get the basketball. And you're going to need to fight through defensive sets that are going to be going after you. And that's exactly what Creighton did. Let's keep in mind, this wasn't 50 minutes where he was walking up and down the court. He was having an easy time getting buckets, having fun on defense. They were going after him, and they were going after him hard. And, you know, a lot of Friar fans were wondering where the whistle was for Bryce on many of those offensive sets when Bryce would go up. Looked like he was drawing fouls and no whistle. Likewise on defense, he's getting banged up out there. And to not only go through that, but to do it 50 minutes nonstop, it's a testament not only to the type of player that Bryce is, but the type of system that Cooley creates and looks for players who can meet that expectation and live up to it. So I think it's, you know, Bryce Cotton, and then, you know, how many years later we got another Bryce that is living up to that name and will be a memorable player for Providence, I think, for years to come.
You know, another memorable player from this past Tuesday night was Devin Carter. And it was great to see him produce in the fashion he did, both offensively, scoring a game-high 25 points, actually a career-high 25 points, and the job he did defensively because his father, Anthony Carter, who was an assistant coach with the Miami Heat, he was in the front row to see his son do what he did. You know, that's a proud moment for a father to see his son do it, but I thought the play that really defined Devin Carter's night came at the end of the first overtime when he came up with a huge block. And just his ability to follow his man to the baseline, give him a little bump, and come up with the block, that was huge because after that, it looked like Creighton was a little bit deflated. And you saw that in the second overtime as the Blue Jays, all they could manage was 2 free throws.
Yep, I agree. Devin Carter is one of those guys. And I think the way I would describe this game for him is an attribution game. You talked about the block that he made in overtime to essentially ensure we got a second overtime. Huge defensive stop. He made several other defensive stops. But the reason I call this an attribution game is because a lot of what he does and a lot of what he did, particularly in this game, it's not showing up in the box score. If you look at the amount of steals he has recorded, you'll see 1 for this game. But it felt like a lot more than that. It felt like a much bigger impact. And same with rebounds, same with anything that might have been recorded in the box score. He has a presence that's able to disrupt and doesn't necessarily fit into one category on this box score. And those translate into those fast break score opportunities, those second chance score opportunities, even just getting the assist and moving the ball up court quickly, or stopping the defense enough where we can force them to have to take a timeout, to get a shot clock violation, to make a bad shot that ultimately results in us getting the ball and moving it back up for another opportunity to score. These are the type of things that don't get recorded, but they overall contribute to the win. And that's why I call it an attribution game, and why I think Devin Carter, he's one of the most brilliant defensive players in the NCAA today, but you won't necessarily hear that conversation because too many people look at the box score for information and not enough what happens on the court.
And speaking of Carter, Ed Cooley used his post-game press conference the other night to talk about his player, extol his virtues, and let people know what they're missing from a national perspective. And let's go to that clip right now.
When I hear all these writers talking about this defensive player, that defensive player, not taking anything away from those young men because they may deserve the credit, but some of you got to open your damn eyes and see what's to my right defensively. We put him on everybody. We may put him on, Julius Erving when he comes out of retirement. But this young man here, he's a stud defensively. So I hope everybody wakes up and understands that.
Okay, Dan, obviously, what Coach said, he used the opportunity to speak about his player and also kind of compare it to a situation a year ago with Justin Minaya and how he thought he was slighted defensively from a national perspective. And, Coach Cooley looking to maybe right another injustice, at least from his perspective.
I think so. Cooley's advocating for his guys, as he's one to always have done. And in this case, he's absolutely right. He should be advocating for Devin Carter. And Devin Carter should be getting that recognition, regardless of what the box score says, as we just talked about. The fact of the matter is he's a brilliant defensive player, and anyone who's watched him play would recognize that. Cooley said it best, to open your eyes and see what is on the court. And I think that speaks volumes, not only to the importance of what Devin Carter does in the box score, but also what he does to ensure a game goes Providence's way defensively. And I think that's a really important element that if these voters didn't recognize this year, they'll see it eventually. And Justin Minaya, he got that injustice last year, Devin Carter this year, but you can't keep denying the Friars forever. We're on the up and up. And, if you don't see it today, you'll see it eventually.
It's ironic that Cooley had spoke those words with the reigning defensive player of the year, Ryan Kalkbrenner, in the house at the Amica Mutual Pavilion the other night. But switching, looking at the Big East standings very quickly, the same four teams that entered the week as prohibitive favorites, they enter the weekend still in the driver's seat. We're talking about Creighton, Marquette, which is in first place, Xavier, and the Friars. Three-way tie for second place right now between the Musketeers, the Blue Jays, and the Friars. Not much in the way of separation, and it looks like it's going to come right down to the end of the last week of the regular season, which is the first weekend of March. But the Friars, they got two games upcoming. They host Villanova on Saturday. It'll be Alumni Day, and then they travel to Gamble Pavilion next Wednesday for a rematch against a UConn team that surely will be out for revenge, remembering what happened when they came to the AMP the first week in January.
Yes, the games are going to be huge going forward. If we win out, there's a chance we can still claim the regular season title once again. Second year in a row. It was unprecedented. We did it even once. To do it twice in a row would speak volumes to the job that Cooley has done. Really, if you think about it, in such a short period of time, because when I was in college, we were just hoping we wouldn't end up above. We were hoping to end up above last place. Like, we were struggling, and to go from that to be in contention for the regular season title once again mid-February, it speaks volumes to the work that Cooley's done. These games are not going to be easy. Villanova, they're struggling a little bit this year comparative to the last decade or so, but you can't favor them out. You can't discount them. They're a team that comes to win, and they know how to win. And we're going to have to give them our best if we want to come out with a victory. We can't be looking forward to Wednesday. I know everyone's very excited for that rematch with UConn. It's a fun rivalry. It's an intense rivalry. But we can't look ahead there until we take care of business Saturday, and then all eyes on UConn. We got to go in there. It's going to be a hostile environment. This team started strong. They're going to be looking to rebound from their lull in the middle of December and January and really make it so they can make a push for higher Big East seeding, higher NCAA seeding, and really make their mark with Coach Hurley looking to prove that he can win at UConn in March.
Well said, Daniel. We'll wrap it right there and conclude this first edition of Breaking Down the Madness Providence College men's basketball style. We'll be back next week with a fresh episode. But until then, take care, everyone.